Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjanam Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjanam Yamunatira Vanachari Nachari Yamunatira Vanachari Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravikacharya Ashtodarsha Srimad HG Bhakti-vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravikacharya Ashtodarsha Srimad Bhakti-vedanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sehe Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Yamuna Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Ananti Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaura Premanande Haribol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th Canto, Chapter 19, Text 15. Tan na pabo tvam kukale virar pitam twan maya yaham mamatam adokshaja bindyama yanashu vayam sudurbidam Vedehi Yogam Tvai Na Swabhavam Iti Tanno Prabho Tvam Kukale Vararpitam Twan Mayaya Ham Mamatam Ajokshaja Vindyamayena shuvayam sudurbidam Videhi yogam tvana swabhavam iti. Tanna prabho tvam kukale vararpitam Tvan mayayaham mamatam adyokshaja Vindyamayena shuvayam surdarbidam Vedehi yogam tvana swabhavam iti. Tanno prabho tvam kukale virarpitam Tvan mayayaham mamatam ajokshaja Vindyamayena shuvayam sudarbidam Vedehi yogam tvayena swabhavam iti. Tanu prabho tvam kukale virarpitam Tvanmayaham mamatam ajokshaja
Vindyamayena shubhayam sudurvidham Videhi yogam tvayena swabhavam
Yam tvayena swabhavam iti. Vindyamayena shuvayam surdarbidam Prabho tvam kukale virarpitam virarpitam Tvan mayayaham mamatam ajokshaja Vindyamayena shuvayam sudarbidam Videhi yogam tvayena swabhavam iti. Anyone else would like to chant?
Tanna prabhotam kukale vararpitam
Tvam kulave virarpitam
Tan mayaham mamatam adhokshaja Vindima jena shubhayam sudurvidam Videhi yogam taina swabhavam iti.
Okay. Synonyms. Tat, therefore. Naha, our. Prabhu, O my Lord. Tvam, you. Kukalevara arpitam, invested in this bad body, full of stool and urine. Twat mayaya, by your illusory energy. Aham mama tam, the conception of I and my. Adokshaja, O transcendence. Bindyama, may give up. Yena, by which. Ashu, very soon. Vayum, we. Sudorbidam, which is very difficult to give up. Videhi, please give. Yogam, the mystic process. Twai, unto you. Naha, our. Swabhavam, which is symptomized by a steady mind. Iti, thus. Translation. Therefore, O Lord, O Transcendence, kindly help us by giving us the power to execute Bhakti Yoga so that we can control our restless minds and fix them upon you. We are all infected by your illusory energy. Therefore, we are very attached to the body, which is full of stool and urine, and to anything related with the body. Except for devotional service, there is no way to give up this attachment. Therefore, kindly bestow upon us this benediction. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The Lord advises in Bhagavad-gītā, man-manā bhava mad-bhakto mad-yājī mam namaskuru. The perfect yoga system consists of always thinking of Krishna, always engaging in devotional service, always worshipping Krishna, and always offering obeisances unto Him. Unless we practice this yoga system, our illusory attachment for this bad body, which is full of stool and urine, is impossible to give up. The perfection of yoga consists of giving up attachment for this body and bodily relationships and transferring that attachment to Krishna. We are very attached to material enjoyment, but when we transfer that same attachment to Krishna, we traverse the path of liberation. One has to practice this yoga system and none other. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vrishabhanu Sita Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhi Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation again. Therefore, O Lord, O Transcendence, kindly help us by giving us the power to execute Bhakti Yoga, so that we can control our restless minds and fix them upon you. We are all infected by your illusory energy. Therefore, we are very attached to the body, which is full of stool and urine, and to anything related with the body, except for devotional service. There is no way to give up this attachment. Therefore, kindly bestow upon us this benediction. So last night I had an interesting dream. I was supposed to dress Lord Jagannath, Baldev, and Subhadra, and I was preparing for class. And so I was thinking I'm not going to have time. So I had a little nightmare. It was in the temple room, and I was speaking to so many devotees, and I was looking at the deities, and they weren't dressed. So I hurried on the altar, and I started dressing them. So in this way, I was both happy that I was dressing the deities, and at the same time, I was in anxiety. Because I was in anxiety, because it's my first time dressing them. and I didn't know how long it would take. So when something is said or repeated more than once in Shastra, you should be understood that it has significance or it's important. And Lord Krishna, Srila Prabhupada, our previous acharyas, they emphasize on certain points. Just like my spiritual master, His Holiness Badrinarayan Swami Maharaj, and His Grace Vijay Prabhu, they would always tell me and ask me, did you go out on books? Did you go out on books? Did you go out on books? And go out on books, go out on books, go out on books. So what does this tell me? It tells me that book distribution is very important, not only to the movement, but to Srila Prabhupada. And I actually like going out and distributing books. I like preaching, speaking to different people, see where they're at. And I may not be good at it, but I try anyways. So one of the most famous repeated, you can say, verses is Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama Eva Kevalam, Kalau Nasti Eva, Nasti Eva, Nasti Eva Gatir Anyata. In this age of Kali, there is no other way, no other way, no other way than chanting the holy name, chanting the holy name, chanting the holy name of Lord Hari. And another topic that we see in Bhagavad-gītā or Srimad Bhagavatam is that we are not this body, but we are pure spirit soul, part and parcel of Krishna. Mamai Vamsho Jeva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. These living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. So we should understand who we are and what is our connection with Krishna. And another subject that keeps being brought up is that don't be attached to this body, because it's temporary, but in the West, actually all over the world, it's a big problem, a very big problem. There's a disease called amnesia, and those that know it, you forget who you are. Just like sometimes when people get into bad accidents or head injuries, they forget who they are, where they live, what are they doing. So people have forgotten their true identity. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he says, Jivera Swarup Hoy Krishnera Nityadas. It is the living entity's constitutional position to be an eternal servant of Krishna. And when we don't want to serve Krishna, we serve Maya, his illusory energy. So it's our choice. Krishna gives us this free will. We are all infected by illusory energy, therefore we are very attached to this body, which is full of stool and urine and anything related to it. This is a nice description of what this body is actually. A lot of people, they work so hard to try to make it look nice. Why? To try to attract the opposite sex, or in this age, the same sex. And so if you want to cure a disease, you need a diagnosis. And what is the diagnosis? We turn our backs on Krishna after so many lifetimes. And what is the cure? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It was interesting yesterday because Amoga Leela Prabhu, Bhakti Dimitri Prabhu, and myself, we were all at Balboa Park in the same area. So it was very funny because we were able to get a lot of people to get books. And I met a few interesting people yesterday. They were Indian body, and we all know how that can turn out. So I asked them, excuse me, I have a book for you. And this guy, he said, no, I'm from the land where yoga was started. And I said, really? You look like a Westerner. You know, he was wearing a leather jacket, leather shoes. And I told him, if you're from India, you should know how holy the cow is. So sometimes we have to use these sharp words. And I told him, you should give these books to someone. I know you have these books. He said, no, these are holy books. We don't give them to just anyone. So I told him, how is that compassion? And I told him we should give these books freely, and it doesn't matter. And I told him we understand these are holy books, but we want to give them to the most fallen people. And we should give them a chance to understand Krishna, the all-attractive Supreme Personality of Godhead. And I asked him this question: how often do you read the Bhagavad-gītā? He was with his friends and his family, so he didn't want to lie. Because when you're with your friends and family, they know what you do, your activities are. So if he says, I read them every day, they're going to say you're lying. So he said, we got to go. He avoided the question. And so even those born in India, they can be proud, they have a right to, because we understand that it's rare to take birth in India. But are they spreading Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission? They're not. There's a story of Srila Prabhupada. There was an elderly Indian gentleman that wanted to visit Srila Prabhupada. He wanted to speak to him. And later on, this visitor became very critical of Srila Prabhupada's preaching. He was telling him, Srila Prabhupada, you should not be so critical to so many people. In the Bhagavad-gītā, he was quoting Pandita Samadarshina. And so Srila Prabhupada, he replied, that is a higher stage. I am not on that stage. I distinguish between pious activities and sinful activity. I say, you are sinning and you should stop. So this is what Srila Prabhupada said. And eventually the Indian visitor, he said, you're repeating, what have you done? Basically he was trying to say, what are you doing for the people? And Srila Prabhupada, he says, my contribution is that I have made this knowledge available to people all over the world without discrimination. I have given Krishna consciousness to everyone. That is my contribution. And that is my version of Pandita Samadarshana. And Srila Prabhupada concluded with these words, and the Indian man, he expressed gratefulness. And later on when he was walking away or leaving down the hall, he was saying out loud, very interesting, he sees everyone equally. So Srila Prabhupada, he did make distinctions, but he wanted to freely distribute these books to everyone. And that will actually please Prabhupada when we distribute his books. And another story, Srila Prabhupada, he was on a morning walk, and he was saying, real religion means love of God. So instead of love of Godhead, the love of doghead is increasing. So when you see everywhere, all around the world, people are worshiping dogs. That's what Srila Prabhupada would say. Instead of worshiping dog, they worship dog. And Prabhupada, he said, everybody should keep a dog and serve him. I was distributing books yesterday, and I asked a person, what makes someone attractive? And a lot of people, they will say a lot of physical descriptions. I think someone with tattoos is very attractive, someone with nice hair, someone that's very tall is very attractive to me. The type of clothes, I like skater guys or girls that listen to this music. And then I tell them, what about the soul? And they kind of pause for a little bit. I say, the soul? And I said, the soul is what makes the body attractive. As soon as the soul leaves the body, it becomes a dead corpse. And they understand that. So I smile and I ask them, would you like to read more about the soul? They say, yeah. So I turn to Bhagavad-gītā, the 2nd chapter, and it starts describing the soul. It's indestructible, immeasurable. There is neither birth nor death at any time. The soul is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and the soul is not slain when the body is slain. When they hear this description of the soul, they actually, it's like Krishna within the heart, he's reminding them, this is who you are, you're not the body. And then I conclude with that verse, just as a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. So I told him this is what happens at the time of death. This life is a preparation for the next. So when we are ready to take a new body, we give up this old body. And then they understand karma and reincarnation. And I tell them karma and reincarnation go together like parallel tracks. And at this point, they're hooked. They want to learn more about the soul. And then I tell them, I told him, you don't have a soul, you are the soul. And then you can see their eyes just widen. So they smile and they get a Bhagavad-gītā. And I asked them, we just asked for a donation to help with the printing costs. And they're more than willing to take. And in the Bhagavad-gītā, Krishna chastises Arjuna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. For those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. And what was Krishna talking about? He was talking about the body. The body is born and is destined to be vanquished today or tomorrow. Ja tasya hi dhruva mrityur dhruvam janma mrityusya cha. One who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after death one is sure to take birth again. This is actually very sobering because we don't die. Like Dravida Prabhu, his poem, everybody dies, nobody dies. Wake up and open your eyes. You're not that body, you're pure spirit soul. Chant the holy names and attain life's goal. There you go. So, we're eternal beings, but we're now encaged in this temporary material body. And if you read Bhagavad-gītā, Krishna doesn't put any importance on the body. But people who are not educating Krishna consciousness, the body is everything to them. Why? Because they haven't met a devotee. I remember when I first was speaking to my cousin in the Philippines, when she told me about Krishna consciousness, it was very sobering. I said, wow, I needed to hear this. And one of my favorite lines in book distribution is, who are you? And I met this lady. She said, I'm an American nurse. So I told, because I took nursing, and one of the subjects or one of the books that's required for you to study is anatomy. So I asked her, what is this body made out of? So she said, she was trying to word jugglery. She was saying, oh, it's made out of tendons, muscles, bones, and she was naming the different parts. And I told her, actually, this body is full of stool and urine. And then her jaw dropped because she understood it was true, right? And when I told her that this body is actually very disgusting when you analyze it, and it's very delicate. One cut on your finger can change your whole mood in the day. So it's very delicate. And when Krishna was teasing Rukmini Devi in the Krishna book, she describes what the body is. She says the body is just a bag of skin decorated with hair and a mustache. So if you look at a body, it has a little mustache, And there's a what's it called? A park ranger. I don't know if you guys have seen, but he has a little mustache. It's twirled and it's all decorated. And yesterday we were having fun with the park ranger. He goes by Mr. Z. So Dimitri told him, I'm Mr. D, he's Mr. G, and then when the Mogul came, he said he's Mr. A. So he liked, our playfulness. And they actually became friends with us, the park rangers at Balboa Park. And Srila Prabhupada, he would use this term, skin disease. And people identify themselves with others who look like them. If you're this color skin, I belong with you. And if you're not, then you are my enemy, sometimes. And so we make distinctions. He's black, he's European, he's Asian. But Krishna says that, I'll give another example. Sama dukkha sukham dhiram. We should not be disturbed by happiness and distress and be steady in both. So wherever we are in life, we should understand that everything's happening by Krishna's will. And this line that I use on book distribution has been pretty successful. I tell them that life has its ups and downs. And most people, they don't know how to bounce back up when they hit their lowest. So I tell them these books, they help you to be free from stress and how to be steady in both success and failure. And so they like that. So they ask me, what book would you recommend? And I tell them all of them. And I tell him these books, they're like different fruits, mango, strawberry, kiwi. So you take your pick. They have a different flavor. So I would stack the books and I would hand it to them. And when they asked me how much, and I tell them we don't sell these books in bookstores. We just kindly ask for a donation. And they give a nice donation. And Srila Prabhupada, he says, Bhakti begins when all material desires are finished. So that leaves us to ask ourselves, do I still have any desires here in this material world? Do I still feel like I have unfinished business here? Do I need a family? Do I need to get married? Do I need a promotion? And what do karmis desire? Wealth, fame, followers, a good wife, etc. And Srila Prabhupada would call these sarvakamis, unlimited desires. But the devotee, he's desireless, not in a sense that he doesn't have desires, but he has transcendental desires. And his only desire is to please Krishna. When a woman's bodily features are attractive, when her face is beautiful, and her voice is sweet, she is naturally a trap for a man. Huh? Yeah. I was talking to a Christian man the other day, and he was telling me that I didn't spend too much time with him, but he was telling me how he got married twice. And he said the second wife, she was singing gospel, this and that, but eventually she deceived him. So she was in heartache. He was in heartache. And I told him, you don't need to get married. And what he told me was, God gave us marriage to enjoy the sex pleasure. So I told him, I think that's not the right answer, my friend. I told him, the purpose of marriage is to beget God-conscious or Krishna-conscious children. And since he was practicing Christianity, he understood that. So this sex desire is very strong. And he told me that he can give up meat eating, he can give up drinking, he can give up all these except for illicit sex. So he told me this. And in the purport, man-manā, bhava, mad-bhakto, mad-yājī, namaskuru. And so it means that we should always be thinking of Krishna, always engaging in devotional service, always worshiping Krishna, and always offering obeisances unto him. And Srila Prabhupada actually made this very easy for us. We can always think of Krishna, japa, chanting, kirtan, harinam, book distribution. We can always think of Krishna 24 hours. And one of my favorite chapters in the Bhagavad-gītā, the 7th and 10th chapter, when Krishna gives us ways on how we can understand him, his different manifestations. Bhumir apo nalo vayu kam mano buddhir evacha. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, the mind, intelligence, and the false ego, all these together constitute my separated material energies. And we can see that everywhere when we're walking down the street. And Krishna also says, Raso aham apsu kanteya. I'm the taste of water. Every day we drink water. So when we drink this water, it should remind us of Krishna. Krishna says, I'm the light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om in Vedic mantras, the sound in ether and the ability in man. When you go on book distributions, you see a lot of people, they're spiritual. They wear these Om necklaces. I show them this verse that Krishna is the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. And they appreciate the verse, and then they get a Bhagavad-gītā. They want to learn more about spirituality. And Krishna also says, I am the original fragrance of the earth, and I am the heat and light, the life of all that lives. So these are ways how we can see Krishna in this material world. And Srila Prabhupada, we have a very big debt to him by showing us this truths. One of my favorite lines is Mrityu sarva harashchaham. I am all devouring death. And when I meet a lot of people that are kind of materialistic, I tell them this verse. I tell them you can't keep your wealth, you can't keep your friends, you can't keep your wife. So it's funny because I'm the only one that's laughing. They're serious. And then I tell them you can't keep your position, your prestige, none of that, you know. And then they say, how are you so calm? And I told them because we have faith in Krishna. We know that God is also death in his representative. So this is talking about being attached to the body. I was working at Coronado. It was a retirement village. And we had two very senior, not devotees, but senior people. Yeah, but one was 104 and 100 was 105 years old. Yeah, they couldn't walk, they had dentures, they had so many problems, they couldn't feed themselves. So a long life may not be a blessing. And they also had dementia or Alzheimer. They couldn't remember their name. When their family visited, they wouldn't even know who they were. So it was very sad. It was unfortunate. And you still see this. The other day in Balboa Park, there was another elderly couple. Guess what they were doing?
Making out.
Close. Close. No. They were getting married. Yeah, like they were over 60 or 70 years old. And they were very proud. But like what Maharaj says at the, what's that saying? Till death do us part. So even death will separate them. And it's almost time. And one of my favorite pastimes is when Vidura, he chastises the blind king Dhritarashtra. He tells him, it was pretty heavy actually. He says, just see how fear has overtaken you. Your father, brother, well-wishers, and sons are all dead and passed away. You are invalid, and you are living in the home of another. You know, and he tried so many ways to poison the Pandavas or kill them. The house of lack, poison, everything. And Vidura says, you have been blind from your very birth, and recently you have become hard of hearing. Your memory is shortened and your intelligence is disturbed. Your teeth are loose, your liver is defective, and you're coughing up mucus. You know, when I read this, I was thinking, this is a description of old age, you know. It doesn't get better. It doesn't get better. And when I meet old people on book distribution, I really try to give them a Beyond Birth and Death book, because that book will strain them out, you know. And the other day, I was, you know, we've heard of weapons of mass destruction, but there's also weapons of mass distraction. And one of these distractions were Pokemon. It was a Saturday. All ages were playing this silly game, Pokemon. And even a grandmother was playing. And so I was thinking to myself, how much time are they wasting? But on that note, I met a Mahajan. Yeah. His first name was Amin, and his last name was Mahajan. When he gave me a Zell, I read his name and he said Mahajan. So I smiled and I called him back and I said, do you know what your name means? And then he said, yeah. And I said, you're a rare soul, young man. So he took a book, and what's interesting is that he came back to my table right before he left, and he wanted to show his gratitude for taking the time to speak to me. I met another interesting person. I asked people, what do you do? He said, I grow weed. He's a marijuana grower. So you meet so many different people. And so I was telling him these books, they help you to find inner happiness and inner peace, how to find meaning and purpose to life. So if you know anyone that's going through difficulties, you give them a book. And he said, I know who I can give this to. Thank you. So we all know someone that's going through difficulties. Yesterday, there was a Christian couple again. The guy was very interested, and then the wife or the girlfriend, she said, sorry, I don't feel comfortable with Christian. And he was trying to get the book from the guy. She was handing it to me, but I kept pushing the book back to him. So I told him, these books, they're universal. Everyone has a mind. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, Christian, Muslim. And the man, he actually understood this. So I said, keep it, you know. He already gave a donation. So he took a book, and they were on their way. Sometimes you meet nice Indian folks. And I met a couple yesterday. They saw how I was distributing Bhagavad-gītā to Westerners. And they were waiting patiently behind this family. And after they got a book, this Indian couple, they came to my table. And I told them, I love this Bhagavad-gītā. It changed my life. And then we were speaking and talking about the book. And he said something interesting. He said, thank you for reminding us to read the Bhagavad-gītā. I have another line also. I tell them, you're going to love this book. You just haven't read it yet. So I tell them, give it a chance. You know, there's so much things to learn. And they're willing to take a Bhagavad-gītā or a SSR and give a donation. So this is my last story. I met a couple, an elderly couple yesterday. They got a book from me. And then I asked them, how did you like the book? And they said, we haven't read it yet. And so he brought it out. It was a SSR. So I told him he should give that book time, you know. He should make time for this book. It's very important. So the man asked me, how has these books helped you? So I told him I used to drink, I used to smoke, I used to eat meat, I used to do all these things, party, but now I stopped all of that. And then the guy who was just like, wow, his face was very shocked. And I told him, these books, they really help you to become a better person. So that inspired them to take the books a little bit more serious. Okay, that's all I have. Hare Krishna. Is there any questions, comments, corrections?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I just want to let you know there is one question pending on the Zoom.
Okay, thank you, Tapas. Devavrata Prabhu. G.
I think you get the gold medal for most number of mic drops lines on book distribution. you really stop them in their tracks. It's awesome.
I try. Thank you. Raja?
Thank you. You stated correctly that we have to detach ourselves from the material world, our bodies, our names, and our culture and our background in order to serve clearly. But you also mentioned that the body is simply a stool and urine holder. Is there a risk, rather than seeing it as a temple where, as you said, the soul resides and makes it beautiful, if we see it simply as a stool and urine, that we see it more negatively and not give it the pure essence that we should? Mm-hmm. So with that pureness we can serve rather than simply seeing it as a garbage can. Is there a risk in that?
Yeah. So we, devotees, we mark the body 12 different places with tilak. So we understand, the devotees, that this body is a temple, but for those that are non-devotees, they're filling it up with filthy things. Meat, alcohol, smoking, things like that. So yeah, in one sense, we know that this body, Srila Prabhupada, he would say, make the best use of a bad bargain. So we understand this body is temporary, and it's not actually nice, but we use it in the service of Krishna. And then it becomes spiritual, because Krishna is pure spirit, and anything in contact with Krishna becomes spiritual. Did that help, Raj? Okay, thank you. Yes, Dravida Prabhu.
So I was exactly on this point. Some time ago, I was suddenly had a epiphany. one of Krishna's aspects of his great mercy is that the body is obviously a bag. You know, Krishna said, "Yasyatma buddhi kunabetidari," full of the three dhatus, mucus, bile, and air, and these other objectionable substances. There's no question in that. And has a covering that can make it seem nice, but when you see the essence of it, there's nothing really nice about it intrinsically. But here we are, you go on the altar, and so many devotees are going on the altar and touching the deity and addressing the deity. Now, if someone would propose to bring up a bag of blood, stool, urine, and pus and put it on the altar, you say, "Get out of here, we don't do that." This is disgusting. But Krishna allows us to come and use this stool-ridden body to address him and do all these things. And this is a basic principle of Krishna consciousness. It's not just, I was going to cite that thing that you mentioned, that Prabhupada, I think he was quoting his spiritual master, "Make the best use of bad bargain," which is an English motto, someone said it. But the whole process of Krishna consciousness is that you take something that's material because it's being used in the service of illusion, the whole material world, and you use that in the service of Krishna, and Krishna accepts it, and it becomes spiritualized. Mm-hmm. This is the principle of yukta vairagya. Anasaktase vishayanyataham apayunjita nirbandha krishna sammanna yukta vairagam uchite. Without attachment, not being attached to the body, but rather using it where appropriate in the service of Krishna, and thus not losing one's attachment to the body. I was just reading how Prabhupada was giving he was in India, in Bombay, and he was explaining to an Indian audience how, just see, these young men and women, mostly European and American at that time, they're indifferent about their own dress. They're not painting their bodies and trying to attract the opposite sex because they're using it in dressing a beautiful deity. They've lost the attraction. And so this is a basic principle. How else are we going to serve Krishna unless we can use what we have in his service and attract and sublimate it or spiritualize it? So this is the basic principle. When we forget Krishna, suddenly we become more involved in the pleasure and pains of our own body and how it looks, so we can attract the opposite sex. So the key is the remembrance of Krishna and understanding philosophy. So even this material world can become Vaikuntha if Krishna's in the center and everyone's thinking of Krishna.
Thank you. And also, when Rukmini Devi was describing the body, she said it has polluted airs. Anyway, okay, Vijay Krishna Prabhu, did you have a question?
From Zoom?
Yes.
Yes, Govardhan Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. My question is, can you give us at least one symptom that shows that the living entity is infected by the illusory energy of the Lord?
Mm-hmm. Is ahama meti, that I am this body and everything in relation to this body is mine. The first thing you ask people is, who are you? And based off of that, you can get a clearer understanding or idea of where they're at, their realization. So when they say, I'm American, I'm Filipino, I'm Russian, I'm Mexican, Joseph, exactly, even their name, they're on a false platform, and that means they're in illusion.
Yes, Govardhan Prabhu, as usual, very helpful. Brilliant answer to my question, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the kind words, Vijay Krishna. Okay.
You're welcome.
Grand Tiraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.